Welcome! Today, we are diving deep into strategy analysis. It's an absolutely crucial skill for anyone who wants to drive real, meaningful change in their organization. And we'll be using the world-renowned Babok Guide as our roadmap. This training, brought to you by Oasis&Brooks Ltd., is all about giving you a powerful, practical framework for turning those brilliant ideas into successful business realities.
So, have you ever asked yourself that? You see a fantastic concept, a truly game-changing idea. But what's the secret sauce? What turns that initial spark into something that actually works and adds value? Well, I can tell you, it's not magic, and it is definitely not just luck.
It all starts with strategy, and the discipline for building that strategy is what we call strategy analysis. The best way to think of it is like a compass. In a world that's always changing, this is the tool that tells you exactly where you are, helps you define precisely where you want to go, and then charts the absolute best course to get there.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to walk through the 4 core tasks of strategy analysis together. First, we'll analyze the current state. Then, we'll define the future state. After that, we'll assess the risks. And finally, we'll define the change strategy that ties it all together into a solid plan.
Now, to make sure these concepts don't just stay theoretical, we're going to follow a case study. Let's meet Brew Right Coffee. They're a cool regional chain. They make great coffee, but they've got a problem. They're bleeding customers, and they're not sure why. So we're going to step in and be their analyst, using this framework to figure things out.
So first things first, before you can even think about planning a journey, you have to know exactly where you're starting from. That brings us to step 1, analyze the current state. The Babok Guide defines this as understanding the business need and how things actually work right now. The goal here is to get a clear, totally honest baseline. This isn't about pointing fingers or blaming anyone. It's about creating a factual starting point so we know what we're dealing with. And this analysis is deep. We're talking a full 360-degree view. You look at everything from the daily business processes and the tech people are using to the skills of your staff and even the company's structure. And most importantly, you have to understand what your customers and stakeholders are thinking and feeling. So for Brew Right Coffee, this analysis uncovers some pretty obvious problems. Their ordering process is all manual, which means long, slow lines. Their tech is ancient. They're still using physical punch cards for their loyalty program. And all of this adds up to one thing: frustrated customers who are starting to go somewhere else. That right there is their current state. Okay, so we've identified the problems. Now we get to look to the future. Let's move on to step 2, define the future state. This is the fun part, where we get to dream a little, but with a clear purpose. So the future state isn't just about picking a solution out of a hat. It's about defining the conditions that need to exist to solve the business need. What does success really look like? What are our clear, measurable objectives? And what's the value we're hoping to create when we get there? For Brew Right, the future state is a direct answer to every single problem we just found. Those long queues, solved by a seamless mobile ordering app. The outdated punch cards, replaced by an integrated digital loyalty program. The slow workflow, that's going to be totally streamlined. See how the future state directly targets the pain points of the current state? That's the key. And here's where it gets really powerful. These aren't just vague hopes. They are concrete, measurable business objectives. They're aiming to cut wait times in half, get a 20% boost in repeat customers, and raise their customer satisfaction score. Now, those are real targets to aim for. So, we have our starting point, and we have our destination. But let's be real, the road between here and there is almost never a straight line. And that brings us to the crucial step 3. Assess risks. This is where we have to be brutally honest and ask, what could go wrong? You know, the Babok Guide puts it perfectly. Risk is all about uncertainty. We don't know for sure if something bad will happen, and we don't know exactly how bad it'll be if it does. Our job as analysts is to shine a light on those uncertainties and figure out how to deal with them. Let's see this in action with Brew Right. They identify a huge risk. What if customers just don't download or use the new app? The impact of that would be high, and they figured the likelihood is medium. So they don't just cross their fingers. They create a response plan, a big marketing campaign, and a discount for everyone who uses it at launch. That is planning for success. Okay, we've looked at the present, we've defined the future, and we've anticipated the risks. Now it's time to put it all together in our final step. Step 4, define the change strategy. The change strategy is the final, essential piece of the puzzle. It's the bridge. It's the detailed step-by-step plan that connects where you are right now to where you want to be. And it's a smart bridge because it's designed to navigate around all those risks we just identified.
And Brew Right's strategy is brilliant. They're not going for some huge, risky launch all at once. No way. They're starting smart, with a minimum viable product, just the core features. Then, they'll pilot it in a few stores, get real feedback from customers and staff, make it better, and then they'll do a phased rollout with proper training. This is how you minimize risk and maximize your chances of a huge win.
So, let's zoom out and pull this all together. After watching Brew Right tackle their challenge, what's the big takeaway for you? Well, the best way to think about this whole framework is as your own strategic compass.
It really boils down to this simple but incredibly powerful process. First, analyze the current state. You have to know where you are. Second, define the future state. You have to know where you're going. Third, assess risks so you understand what could get in your way. And finally, define the change strategy. That's the map that will get you there safely. This four-step loop is the engine that drives real change.
And that leaves me with one final question for you to really think about. Look at your own world. Maybe it's a project at work, a process on your team, or even a personal goal. What current state that you're dealing with right now is ready for a new, better future state?